seems that we just passed 600 members on the DevOps Stockholm meetup. That's great news, so I hope there will be cool talks in the future and different areas. And I would like to thank you for organizing the DevOps Stockholm Docker meetup. Anyway, my name is Lars-Erik Stenholm. I work as an infrastructure engineer at Spotify, and within an infrastructure department, so to say. And the team that I'm based in is the continuous integration team. So we basically work with source code management systems, build servers, package management, and everything that has to do with continuous integration from source code to package. So that's my background. And the reason I'm here is that to tell you about some of the stuff that we are doing with Docker at Spotify. So I've chosen 3 different things that I know of. There might be other projects within Spotify where they use Docker, but as Spotify is organized, the different teams within Spotify are pretty much autonomous, and they can choose tools and processes as more or less as they want. But there are 3 things that are happening, and 2 of them are real stuff, and the stuff that I'm working with is like more or less a brainchild and might eventually become something. So I will start off with the first team at Spotify, and this is the largest team. We have 6 developers dedicated to this team, and their kind of tenacious goal is to establish a new and super excellent way of deploying backend services in the form of isolated containers. That's like their mission. So what they did was that they started up with Linux containers to understand the base tech and to be like a bit independent of the magic that Docker provides, so know how networking works and base technology on how it works. So that was where they started up. They also set up a private registry, as you have done as well, for somewhere to host the Spotify-made Docker images. So that's also something that they have set up. What they also did was that they have this private cloud thing at Spotify called SpotiCloud, and so they also created one offering in that SpotiCloud where you have a basic development environment where you can start using Docker. So you can experiment within Ubuntu instance where you have Docker, and you can do everything so that you don't have to run Vagrant on your local machine, or you have a cloud offering that you can spin up and do whatever you want with. They also created a continuous integration pipeline for creating images so that everything is automated, so that developers don't sit on the local machine and create the images and upload them. So everything, you can always see where the images come from that are in the registry. So the first minimum viable product that the team had was to actually package and deploy one Spotify service into production. And what that meant was that they would take one simple backend service within Spotify, a stateless service. They created the image for it. Actually, they created 3 different images. First was the base image. We still use Squeeze, Debian Squeeze in production, so they created a Squeeze base image. Upon that, they created a Java image with all the Java tools that they need. And on top of that, they created the actual service image. And what they did was they packaged this and deployed this to production, spun it up, and actually mirrored some of the production traffic into this Docker container, just to see how it works. Does it fall down after some days of production traffic? The thing with this service was that it actually didn't set anything back to the clients. So it only took traffic from production, did what it should do, and just threw away the results instead of sending it back to the client. But it was like testing out the technology and see if it works in production and is able to take production traffic. So the stuff they're working with now. So you see this tenacious goal of super excellent way of deploying backend services. The goal of this team is to platformize, make this like a self-service thing for the different feature developer teams at Spotify. So any feature developing team could use this technology and actually get their service into production. That's the goal. And for that, they of course need to create processes and tools. And one of the tools that I've just recently started working on is the ability to deploy startup Docker containers in a cluster of servers. And because as Docker is now, it's like single machine start a single Docker container. With this tool, the plan is that you should be able to deploy it over a cluster or over a data center. Hopefully stuff from that will end up being open source, as lots of tools do nowadays on Spotify. So let's hold our tongues flat. Okay, so that was the New York City Service Infrastructure team. Okay, so the next team starting to work with Docker is my own team, continuous integration. So the goal here is to allow teams to own their own build environment. So at the moment, the background is that at the moment the build servers look like that you have these change root environments where you build your service. And the first thing that happens, and we only have like a few generic change routes that you build in. So the first thing that happens when you start building your service is that you download shitloads of packages to just get the environment up to state to be able to build your service and package it. So the goal here is to allow teams to depend on Docker images and not just packages. So the team can create the build environment that they want to use to build their package, to build their service and package it. So that's what we're aiming at. And basically the goal is to remove routes because that's kind of old tech. Even though we use Buffer.fs, but it's hard. There's no self-service around it, and you can't really give the ability to the users to create routes and deploy them on the build agents. And also the plan is to create a few build templates that the users can use, onto which we expose the available build environments that the teams have created in informal Docker images. Also that eventually we are moving into some kind of manifest-based build system, and in that case you will just refer to a reference of a Docker image instead, and the build will be done on that. And also one of the things that we have to do is, of course, to teach the feature squads on how to use, and like how to create Docker images, how to use the stuff that the container squad in New York has made, and how to, everything, training. Okay, the last one that I've spoken with, and they are the ones that actually, I think they're the ones that are actually these are users, and they're using Docker for real, much in the way like you do with building their service and testing. So their goal is their goal was to create a good environment to do all their test automation in. So what they do is that they basically build their application inside a Docker container. And the background was that previously they did the builds as usual. They deployed the service on a dedicated server, run the automatic, the whole test automation suite on these dedicated servers. There were 5 of them, and they kept running them, and there were lots of problems. So instead they created this container that will replace the dedicated servers. So what they do is that they do very much the stuff that Matthias is doing. But they do it from Jenkins. That they set up the container, they build the service, put it there, and run the test suite inside the container instead. And it was a great success. So previously, when they had these dedicated 5 servers, this team is, by the way, they're like the prominent test automation team within Spotify. They do shitloads of test automation. So previously they used to run on these 5 servers, and the success rate, I looked at some metrics and graphs that they had. So the success rate was between 0 and 9 for their test suites over time. There's huge fluctuations on when the environment was actually working, and you you were able to run all your tests. The run times for the tests were going up between 10 minutes and 20 minutes, so that was very hard to know exactly how long they would take. So they switched to this new form, running stuff within Docker, moved on to using only one server and running 5 containers inside on that server. And now the success rate for running the test is 90 to 100%, and it's like persistently that way. And it was more on the 100% side than 90. And the run times is like persistently on 7 minutes, more or less, whereas it used to be between 10 and 20 minutes. So this is like a good example of where you can move from something that's kind of shaky and you can't really trust that you get the results that you want from your test automation. Yep, this has been a great success. Okay, what are the challenges? I'm just picking stuff here. There is no order of priority here. One thing that we have a problem with, no problem, it's a challenge definitely. We have put a huge investment on putting all our service configuration in Puppet. So we do all service configuration with Puppet for all services, all servers, everything. Whereas now that we're starting using Docker, we're only using a Docker file. So we have a huge investment in configuration of services and manifests and everything, but not using them with Docker. So we need to find some way to like leverage all that investment into using the Puppet stuff that we have to create the Docker images. There are several ways of doing it, and there are some plans on what we can do. Another thing is like the Docker community is moving fast. This has been mentioned already, but we have examples of developers in the container squad in New York where they've been struggling with this bug or some feature that they are missing and just finishing off that bug and solving it or finishing the feature, and the next day they see that someone else has fixed it upstream. So there's like, yeah, what should you focus on doing on one? So that's a challenge definitely. And then there's the strategy of how will the Docker project support running privately hosted registry /index. That's kind of unclear. I'm not sure. It feels to me like it's like a separate project and everything. So it would be great if like privately hosted registry would be something that was in the project and something that was a proper product and there was active development around it.
I do believe that it's supposed to be something you were able to run, but also .cloud turning to Docker. I think one of their things is they're selling Docker registry as a service.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's probably why why it's confusing.
But I think the reason why it's still, I mean, Docker used to be Python in the beginnings when I put the name, and the registry is actually Python now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I think it's just the reason why it's still kind of on the side is because they didn't get around working with it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the feeling I got.
Yeah, exactly. And all these things have probably changed within like a month. So in a month you might know what the strategy is, or there might be some other project that has started up doing a great registry. Or the way I'm seeing it, I would love to see like Nexus or Artifactory supporting being a Docker registry. That would be great because that goes hand in hand with how everything else is at the moment. So that was basically it from me. So as you see, there's lots of things happening, and I hope that within like 6 months maybe we can do another meetup around this, and then we have more information from the container squad in New York and what tools they have written and what's open source and what's not. So, thank you very much. Any questions?
This thing about moving from 5 servers in the testing environment to 5 containers, what made the success rate be that much higher? I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I had written it down. Yeah, basically what they wanted to do was to spin up cloud instances, but it took so long because the background for this is that they run these tests on schedule, so they run them every 20 minutes, so that happens all the time. But they also run on every commit, or actually maybe they probably run them on every. They they run them on every commit basically. So the time to spin up a proper cloud instance was too long for them. So what they used to do on these dedicated servers, they had this cleanup job that they first run, the first thing they did. And there were reasons why packages weren't removed, there were disks that were full, and stuff that you get when you have dedicated hardware. But with Docker, they always got the clean environment, and they were able to spin up the Docker container instantly. So that was the success, I think. Other more questions?
I don't know if it's a question or just like something about the integration with Puppet.
Yep.
It's something I can see very obviously just run the Puppet's manifests inside the container.
Yeah.
As if it was an image with some modifications, I assume.
Yeah. But then, or you could actually run them when you create the image. Some of the Puppet, we have a base Puppet class that's run, everyone uses it, so we could actually apply the base Puppet stuff while we create the image, the first image.
Right.
And then maybe when the container is up and running, we only do configuration, so we don't do anything else. So there are some things that we're looking at, but yeah.
So you still have a need for Puppet, you think, in the Docker environment, or is it because it seems like Puppet is your legacy, so to speak?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's so weird to call it legacy.
It is, but in some ways, Docker changes the game slightly.
Yeah, could well be. Yeah.
But you still need something to configure your hosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
definitely.
It doesn't. We can't move over. We have 60, 70 production services spread over several data centers, and
I was thinking in the Docker space, maybe the use case for Puppet is less obvious.
Definitely. Yeah. Anyone else?
I was wondering when you spin up new services and they're clustered, how do you coordinate between them? And is there does it tie into the operating system in any way?
You mean now or with Docker?
In your, either now or the way you'd like it.
Depends on the server. I can't say how we do that actually, because there are several different ways. Depends on the kind of service you're running, and we have all the feature teams are responsible operationally responsible for their own service. So I can't give any general answer on that. There
Like this problem of breaking symmetry, for example.
Yeah. So I have to back on that.
So what if a developer changes the Docker container and then you want to use that new one?
Exactly. That is one of the core goals for the container squad.
Yeah, but do you terminate your current
running?
Do you terminate or do you kill the running Docker containers and then just start them up again with the new version?
Yeah, probably, and do that that would probably, of course.
Is that something manually do?
I don't think there's a reason to upgrade it with Puppet or anything. I think the way to go is to spin up a new Docker container with the upgraded service. Yeah.
Do you do it manually, like operator logging in and killing the?
No, that is exactly as I said. That is the tooling that they're creating. The container squad is creating to be able to deploy a service that is a Docker image. So we don't use this in production now. Sorry if I was unclear about that.
Okay.
But we have people working on it, so we have a dedicated dev team for it. So in 6 months. Right.
Core OS, is that something you're considering?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know what it is, to be honest, so sorry. We only do Debian from 5 years back, so that's
Thanks a lot. I'd just like to quickly wrap up. I mean, Docker is a big thing, and several people mentioned it's moving fast. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I think Docker first public release was in April this year. So I mean, it is moving fast. I have never seen a project like that taking off like Docker did. So it might be very well true that in half a year we'll completely Docker. So we touched a whole bunch of things that we didn't really talk about today. I mean, orchestration at one point, how do you orchestrate containers talking to each other? Usually it's just not one just single app that does one thing. You usually have a whole bunch of services and containers having to talk to each other. How do you networking between containers, for instance? Core OS is another thing I know Emil would like to talk about, and there's a whole bunch of plus around. And there's a whole bunch of new things that we're certainly going to surface within half a year that we want to talk about. So I'm sure there is a need to meet again and talk about Docker in the future. For tonight, there's a whole bunch of drinks left, and I think there's some food left and snacks. People, those of you that still have energy left and air, happy to stay. I know that people haven't used Docker yet. The website is really good, documentation is great, community is great, as you mentioned. They have very, very good tutorials. Some of them you can actually do it online, and it's really easy to actually get started with a Vagrant image. So it is a little bit different, as you mentioned, it's a little bit confusing in the beginning, but it's really, really, they help a lot getting started. The community is really great. So try it, that's basically you can do. If you want to, some of us are going to stick around. If you have your laptop, do a tutorial now, and I know there's a whole bunch of people here that have experience with Docker, so I'm glad to help, and maybe some other people are here. I can provide you with Wi-Fi if you need network. Yeah. So thank you very much.
I would like to say something too. Henrik Limber from Puppet Labs, and I just want to take the opportunity on behalf of Stockholm DevOps to say thank you to our host for drink and food, and thank you to the excellent speakers. And let's deploy these in a warm-up.